We're ready? Okay, now we can start.
Okay, the public hearing is scheduled for 2 o'clock. It's called to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Here.
Dr. Estra,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Mr. Rue,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, before we begin, can I make a statement
Sure.
pertaining to the hearings?
Sure.
On hearing number 15020, I have a conflict of interest and will not be participating in discussion or the vote of that
Wait a minute,
hearing.
wait a minute. Is it finishing? Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Mr. Rue,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Here.
Okay, sorry about that. We had a replay playing. Go ahead, Mr. Rue.
I just want to say that I have a conflict on hearing 15020 and will be abstaining from any activity and not speaking during that discussion of that hearing.
Fully understood. Anyone else? Okay, let's proceed. The purpose of this hearing, since I found my glasses. The purpose of this meeting is for a public hearing to consider proposed change in zoning. Has proper legal notice been given of the hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning for 2.01 acres at 223 Montgomery Avenue from RM12 OPDH to RM12 Low Density Multifamily Residence District was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on July 17th, 2020.
I move the communication and notice be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. Staff report.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. So this is for rezoning on Montgomery Avenue. The parcel is near the intersection of West Jefferson Street and Montgomery Avenue. For the surrounding land use and zoning, to the north is undeveloped property, Zone G and RM12 OPDH. To the east is residential, zoned RS5 and RM12. To the south is residential, zoned RS5, and to the west is zoned RS5 and RM12 as well. Here's a view of the property from Montgomery Avenue. For the background on this case, the applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property to only RM12 to remove an approved overlay plan. The current overlay was approved in 2007, but was never developed. The applicant intends to build a church on the property. For the analysis, the Connect Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows this future character area as traditional neighborhood, high intensity. The thoroughfare plan shows Montgomery Avenue is classified as a collector street. Comments from other departments show no objections. The staff recommendation for this item is approval of the request to rezone the subject property to only RM12. The city planning board voted unanimously to approve this request. I can answer questions and the applicant is also available.
Are there any questions or comments from commissioners?
Yes. Were there any complaints to this?
No, there were no complaints. We did have one resident concern that a fence that's currently located on the southern border of the property would remain. And the applicant did say that some kind of fence will be there.
Okay, so was that resident satisfied with that?
Yes.
And just for our citizens, this is the former site of Great Hill Elementary School, is that correct?
I'm not sure about that.
Yes, it is. That's where my wife taught kindergarten.
Okay,
I know it was Gray Hill.
thank you.
Anyone else? Does the petitioner care to speak? We don't seem to have any questions of the petitioner.
Mr. Crane, if you'd like to speak, you can unmute your microphone.
I believe he's not connected to audio, so he probably would be unable to provide any additional comments.
Okay. Anything else from commissioners?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now? I can see you.
We can hear you.
I can hear you. I want to say hello to all the commissioners. We appreciate this opportunity to speak with you today. We appreciate you taking time to help us with the rezoning process, Ms. Pierce also. And I just want to say that possibly build a new building on the construction, the land where the former Gray Hill Elementary School once sat. We have some members of our congregation who attended that school. And so we have expressed our gratitude to also the Springfield City Schools as well, who neighbor us with the other property that they own. So we're just very thankful. Since 1952, the Montgomery Avenue congregation has been worshiping in Springfield, Ohio. And currently we're at 811 Montgomery Avenue. So we're not far away. We're just up the street. And so we're thankful for this opportunity, and we pray that the commissioners and the city of Springfield will support us in this endeavor.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the hearing?
So
That's
moved.
true. So moved.
Second,
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. Is there another public hearing?
Yes, there's a second.
I don't seem to have paper on that. So why don't you tell- you tell
It'll be
us?
the same as the first one.
Oh, okay. Has proper legal notice been given to this hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning for 0.30 acre at 311 East Castle Street from RS8 Medium Density Single Family Residence District to CO1 Commercial Office District was published in the Springfield News Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on July 17th, 2020.
I move that the communication and notice be ordered or received, recorded in the minutes and filed.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Abstain?
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. Staff report.
Okay, you'll see the outline or the parcel outlined in yellow on the screen. It's at the corner of Mason Street and East Castle Street. It's part of the campus of Littleton and Rue Funeral Homes. For the surrounding land use and zoning, to the north is residential zoned RS8. to the east is residential, zoned RS8. And then to the south and west is the Littleton and Rue Funeral Home, zone CO1. And here is a view of the structure from Castley Street. For the background on this item, the applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from RSA to CO1. The building is currently used as offices as part of Littleton and Rue Funeral Home. Rezoning would make this parcel consistent with the zoning of the surrounding Littleton and Rue Funeral Home parcels. For the analysis, the Connect Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows this future character area as traditional neighborhood, high intensity. The thoroughfare plan shows East Castley Street is classified as a local street. Return reports from other departments show no objections. The staff recommendation on this item is approval of the request to rezone the subject property to CO1, and the city planning board unanimously recommended approval. And I can answer questions if there are any.
Are there any questions?
Yes, so what we're talking about is the house that was formerly residential and now is going to be zoned to, I guess, commercial?
Yeah, this house was in an RSA district. However, Littleton and Rue has been using it for offices for some time. So it's currently not occupied as a residence.
Okay, thank you. And were there any objections?
No, there were no objections.
Thank you.
So there won't be any egress or regress changes to the in and out because it's going to stay just the same as it has been since it has been being used as offices, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Anyone else? And we don't have anyone from the audience that wants to comment?
We do have one representative.
Okay,
Oh, well, good afternoon. My name is Steve Sharp, McCall Sharp Architecture. And basically, I am just here to answer any sort of questions. In doing some long-range planning for the client, it became obvious that we needed to basically clean up a little bit of a zoning issue because it hasn't been used for residential for years. However, it will not be an unrelated use to the current nursing or funeral home business. So I'm available if anybody has any questions.
anybody have any questions of Mr. Sharp? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the hearing?
So moved, Estrop.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes,
Mr. Rue,
Abstain?
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. Okay. The official meeting of the City Commission is called to order. The roll call from the previous hearings will cover this meeting also. Please join me in an invocation. Our God, we're grateful for the opportunity to represent the people of Springfield. Help us to do it well today. And please have blessing on our community at this time of extreme stress when we keep hoping that sooner or later the virus will be away from us. But in the meantime, help us to support one another. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting?
So moved, Estrop.
second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
yes,
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes,
Mr. Copeland,
Yes. Clerk will proceed with first readings by title only.
amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 2.01 acres at 223 Montgomery Avenue, Springfield, Ohio, from RM12 OPDH to RM12 Low Density Multifamily Residence District. Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 0.30 acre at 311 East Castley Street, Springfield, Ohio, from RS8 Medium Density Single Family Residence District to CO1 Commercial Office District. Confirming and approving a development incentive agreement, single family residential development with Martin A. and Maria J. Gozer to provide for sewer services to real property outside the city limits. Authorizing the city manager to enter into Amendment C to the engineering services agreement with Black & Veatch Corporation for the primary effluent pumps replacement evaluation and design project to increase the contract for an amount not to exceed $226,373 for a total amount not to exceed $790,130, and to extend the completion date to February 15, 2021. Authorizing the city manager to submit the 2019 Consolidated Plan CAPER of the City of Springfield, Ohio to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Authorizing the release of Church of God Retirement Housing Limited Partnership from continuing obligations under its mortgage and promissory note given to secure performance of Church of God Retirement Housing Limited Partnership under its home-funded loan agreement pertaining to the property located at 3693 Middle Urbana Road and commonly known as North Point Senior Living Apartments. Authorizing the release of Springfield Housing Partners II Limited from continuing obligations under its mortgage and promissory note given to secure performance of Springfield Housing Partners II Limited under its home funded loan agreement pertaining to the property located at 108 East Mulberry Street and commonly known as Mulberry Gardens Ice House Apartments. Authorizing the law director to approve and settle a claim with William S. and Kathy L. Rickard for the expense incurred as a result of damage that occurred on their property located at 2426 Carousel Drive on or about May 18, 2020, and authorizing the Director of Finance to make payment to William S. and Kathy L. Rickard in the amount of $1,393 as full settlement as and for said damages. Accepting dedication of public improvements for the Derby Glen Village subdivision.
Any questions or comments on first readings?
yes. I have a question on, I believe it's 168-20, and that's that 2019 consolidated plan. I wanted Shannon to talk about that. And is it available online for our citizens to view?
Yes, ma'am. The CAPER is available online for citizens to review, and they can also contact our staff with any questions or comments. This is a piece of information that is subject to public review, and it has been in public comment for the last 30 days. That actually ended yesterday, but we never stopped taking information either. The best way to get in touch to submit any comments or ask any questions is to call our main line and be connected to the appropriate staff member. That's 937-324-7380. I'll remind the commission that this is the Consolidated Annual Performance Report. So what this is a compilation of how the city actually spent CDBG, home, and emergency solutions grant dollars from 2019. You'll remember that we file an action plan and a consolidated plan every single year. And then at the conclusion of a federal year, we file the CAPER, which shows how we actually performed as related to the plan we had filed the year before. And so that's what this is. And it's a good report and wonderful, intriguing reading. I encourage everyone to look at it.
Well, thank you. I thought it was interesting, intriguing reading. Thank you, Shannon.
Could you give us the phone number again? It got.
Yes, I do apologize. It's the storm here. 937-324-7380.
Thank you. Anything else from commissioners on first readings? Clerk will proceed with second readings.
Amending ordinance number 9190 passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing and replacing the existing chapter 170 titled Police Community Relations Advisory Group with new chapter 170 titled Community Police Advisory Team.
Move to adopt. I'm happy to
Second.
move.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from commission?
Yes, are the applications available online yet for our citizens to apply, or when will they be available?
Yes, Commissioner. So applications will be made available if commission would move forward with adopting this revised or new chapter 170. It would actually go into effect in 14 days from today's date, which is September 8th. At that point in time, we will make available on September 8th our application, and we intend to run that application period for several weeks with the applications available online and with individuals able to request an application for the board through the city clerk's office if they would like one mailed. But we intend to start that with the effective date of the legislation, which would be on, again, September 8th, if this was approved by commission at today's meeting.
Well, thank you. So we want to encourage our citizens to keep an eye out for that.
Yes, and we've received some inquiries and interest, so I believe we will have several applications submitted once that application period opens up.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Estrada.
thank you. One person in our community emailed me and said, "Are you defunding the police with this action?" And I think we need to make it clear we are not defunding the police. And what we're hoping to do is provide a better connection, improve relations between the community and our police. So in fact, we can not only prevent crime, but follow up appropriately with some kind of response. We are clearly not defunding the police with this action.
It is actually written into the Springfield City Charter that we must have the police at the staffing that it is at this point. Anyone
Absolutely.
else? Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes,
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes,
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Authorizing the acceptance of a 2020-2021 drug use prevention grant in an amount up to $38,732.40 from the Ohio Attorney General's office to be used for funding 4 officers to teach drug use prevention education in public schools, and authorizing the city manager, finance director, and chief of police to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said grant and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements.
so moved. Estra.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
yes,
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes,
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into a Shelter Plus Care One grant agreement with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development in an amount not to exceed $185,891, authorizing the city manager and the director of finance to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said grant agreement and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements, and authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient funding agreement, Shelter Plus Care One Tenant-Based Assistance 2020-2021, between the city and Springfield Metropolitan Housing Authority to conduct a Shelter Plus Care One funded tenant-based rental assistance and administration program in an amount not to exceed $169,440.
so moved. Estra.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I was wondering if Shannon might once again explain just exactly what's going on with this grant application.
For sure. So this is an annual entitlement grant that comes from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And these funds are utilized to assist with the voucher cost associated with moving people from homelessness to permanent housing. We've been very consistent over the last 10 years in the amount of Shelter Plus Care dollars that come forth. We work directly with the state of Ohio through what's called COHIO and various partners throughout the city to provide the case management work necessary to provide the supportive services so that once people get to permanent housing, they can stay in permanent housing.
Are we anticipating an increase in housing issues associated with COVID and funding of that? What are you guys looking at relative to this whole issue right now?
Yes, sir. We're not only anticipating, but we are currently experiencing significant increases in housing need. Currently, our homeless numbers, those in need of emergency shelter, are exorbitantly high. As of today, 147 individuals are housed in emergency shelter with a waiting list of over 50 individuals. This is something that is unmatched in the history of our community. I will be joining a state emergency management call at 3 o'clock to talk about some of the other assistance that we may be able to bring into the community to help specifically with the homeless crisis that we're experiencing. In addition to that, though, and perhaps a bit more positive, the Community Development Department and specifically the Development Programs team has worked tirelessly with various departments to create what is called the Rental Mortgage and Utility Assistance Program. That is utilizing both federal entitlement dollars and COVID relief dollars that came to the Community Development Department as part of the CARES Act. This program is being administered by Neighborhood Housing Partnership on the city's behalf. They are working through case management and case work with individuals who have been impacted financially by COVID and find themselves in need of rental, particularly rental and utility assistance. The individuals can receive assistance for multiple months because it is critical at this point in time to keep people in their homes that they are currently in and not add to the emergency shelter numbers that we are experiencing. I compel anyone who feels that they may be in need or may be nearing need to reach out to Neighborhood Housing Partnership. I need somebody to look that number up for me. It's not on the top of my head. And talk to them. I ask everyone who feels that they may need assistance not to try to pre-qualify themselves, but to reach out to a case manager at Neighborhood Housing Partnership and have them work with them. One of the biggest things that we need to guard against is for people to feel like they don't qualify.
Yes, commissioners, real quick, the phone number for Neighborhood Housing Partnership is 937-322-4623.
Thank you, Brian.
Would you repeat that again, Mr. Heck, please?
Yes. 937-322-4623.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Brian.
Yes,
And
sir.
I just want to ask, I know with Commissioner Estrop's question and the COVID-19, but is some of this due to our courts ramping up foreclosures?
So there is a correlation to the foreclosures that were stayed for a period of time, and those foreclosures have started to come back online. Or not foreclosures, I'm sorry, ma'am, I should say evictions.
Evictions.
It's evictions more than foreclosures. Those evictions are coming back online. That is adding to the issue. However, also associated with the issue is the prolonged receipt of benefits from unemployment. That was filed during the stay-at-home order. We are seeing a number of families and individuals who were gainfully employed were laid off due to the delay in receipt of benefits. They have encountered significant problems and needed to get into emergency shelter. I will tell you, as of today, not counting those who are still waiting for their unemployment benefits, 20% of the adults that are in emergency shelter are gainfully employed or have other sources of income through Social Security and retirement. We have a number of the families that are being served that are getting up and going to work every single day and returning after their shifts to emergency shelter. So there are a number of factors contributing to this, but most importantly, know that there is significant leadership throughout the community trying to respond as well.
Well,
So we're sort of walking around it, but one of the elements here is for a period of time, the federal government was not allowing evictions and was providing financial support, $600, and that's now run out. And so now the evictions that were backlogged are coming down on us.
Yes. And the other part, it's a perfect storm. I mean, the other part of this conversation is also Springfield Metropolitan Housing Authority is working very hard to get their units turned and made available for the permanent housing, kind of tying this back to the legislation that's before you right now. They have encountered some significant barriers associated with federal regulation. That is something we deal with every day, but sometimes in a storm, it gets even harder, as well as staff complications resulting from COVID impact as well. And so we are working to support SMHA's efforts to turn units so that we can get individuals out of shelter or at least off of the waiting list and into emergency shelter as quickly as possible.
So thank you, Shannon, for working with that. I mean, it's starting to feel like fall, and I certainly hope we can get everyone into some kind of shelter before the weather turns on us.
Yes, our mantra is we're going to blink our eyes and it'll be winter time. So
Yeah.
the work is endless.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Authorizing the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated for the purchase of liquid chlorine for use by the city's water treatment plant for an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and enter into a cooperative agreement to finance the water and sewer portions of the McCrite Avenue project, PID number 104831, with the Ohio Water Development Authority and declaring an emergency therein.
So
Move
moved.
to
Esther.
adopt. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 8 to the contract between the city and Moody's of Dayton Incorporated for the well pump cleaning and rehabilitation project to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $10,148 for a total amount not to exceed $1,654,261. Authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 8 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved, Esther.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Authorizing the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated for trash pickup at various city facilities for an amount not to exceed $8,404.20 and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, I know I ask this oftentimes, but I know we have two legislations for two different waste companies. So could somebody explain why we have two, and are they going to different buildings?
Yes, I'll ask Chris Moore to explain that as he manages that contract.
Yes, Commissioner, this is a situation where we go with the lowest bidder, but we have to make sure that someone can get into the basements at City Hall and at the police division. So they need a rear load truck, and Rumpke was the only one able to offer a rear load truck to get in the basements and empty those dumpsters.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Authorizing the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with Waste Management of Ohio Incorporated for trash pickups at various city facilities for an amount not to exceed $12,856.27 and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 1 to the emergency construction contract between the city and A&B Asphalt Corporation for the ramp repair at SpectraJet at the Springfield Beckley Municipal Airport to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $6,370 for a total amount not to exceed $92,878.26 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved, Estra.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrad,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 2 to the contract between the city and J&J Schlegel Incorporated for the Belmont Avenue Reconstruction Phase 2 project, PID number 94814, rebid, to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $20,668.81 for a total amount not to exceed $2,658,450.18, and authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 2 and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrad,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Authorizing the increase of a purchase order in an amount not to exceed $27,204.34 for a total cost not to exceed $84,955.52 for additional work for 15 streetlights on the Broadway Street Reconstruction Project by Ohio Edison and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved, Estra.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrad,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Authorizing the purchase of 4 light transit narrow body vehicles for an amount not to exceed $338,088 from Tesco through the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program in accordance with the provisions of section 5513.01B of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency therein.
So
Move
moved,
to
Estra.
second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
As I recall, these are buses. Is that correct?
Yes, well, Commissioner, these are light duty buses. There are 4 of them. They will be used for ADA and paratransit services provided through SCAT. And they're replacing 3 existing units, and SCAT believes that the additional unit will be put in service and used regularly.
Very good. Thank you.
And they are 100% paid for by ODOT.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
The next 2 items have been added to the agenda. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement by and between the City of Springfield, Ohio and the International Union of Police Associations, police clerks, directing the implementation and performance of the provisions of such agreement and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved, Estra.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Approving general salary increases for non-bargaining unit employees pursuant to section 175.03C of the codified ordinances of the City of Springfield, Ohio. Authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to implement such increases and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved, Estra.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
That's the end of the agenda items.
Are there other items to come before us from commissioners?
Yes, I know that Shannon has another meeting in about 15 minutes, but I wanted to know if she can talk about the Engage Neighborhood event on September the 19th.
Yes, absolutely. I was able to send out a communication earlier this morning, briefly summarizing some of the work that our team and partners throughout the Engaged Neighborhood area have been working on during the COVID pandemic. So just as a very, very high level overview, our team has been working with Promise Partners along with the Gammon House to engage youth of the Engaged Neighborhood in understanding more about the heritage that surrounds them. So before the governor transitioned the Clark County to a red status in July, there were youth that were participating in very socially distant camps and engaging with Gammon House Board of Directors to learn more about signal quilts being something that were very important during the Underground Railroad transition process from southern states to northern states. These youth then participated in designing their own quilt blocks. From that, we have taken those signal quilt blocks and they will be translated into a street mural that will be painted in partnership with the Service Center Engineering Division and Street Division, as well as the students, their mentors, and the Gammon House. That painting is scheduled weather dependent for September 19th. We will be closing Center Street and Clark Street for a period of time to get this mural in place. And it is our goal to then have the street open by the afternoon when there will be another very logistically coordinated, socially distanced event at the Gammon House where the historic marker honoring and paying tribute to the history and heritage of the Gammons and the Gammon House itself as one of only 30 remaining Underground railroad homes in the state of Ohio will be celebrated. So we're really proud of this. It has been tough to continue implementation work as we've dealt with COVID and stay-at-home orders and social distancing. But as our team constantly reminds me, all good things will happen, and this is happening with a momentum that's unmatched. And so we're quite proud of it. We will be having a Housing Solutions Consortium update meeting next week on September 3rd, and we will be highlighting some of the other groups that have also continued to play a large role in engagement and empowerment throughout, in, and around the engaged neighborhood. So we're happy to kind of be getting back on the horse per se, and pushing through the fall with further engagement, planning, and implementation.
Well, thank you. I am just pleased with your stick-to-itness.
It has taken quite a team, and please know and recognize that the community development team, as well as the support of a number of different departments, has really pushed through to keep this. I just get to be the representative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from commissioners?
Yes, I'd like to know, Brian and Mark, where are we in terms of the provision of city services and our staff relative to the virus? Secondly, the status of the former Kroger store on South Limestone. And then third, Mark, our overall financial condition. Sort of my same three questions every time.
Yes. Commissioner, I'll take the first two questions and then obviously turn it over to Mark on the finances. As far as city operations, we're in relatively good position in terms of our staff levels. We had 5 firefighters that were on quarantine, but they come off actually as of tomorrow. So we'll be back up to the full staffing on our fire division. On the police side, we do have 1 member that is currently COVID positive, and I would just ask everybody to keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they recover from what is a nasty virus that is impacting many individuals, but it's specific to this one member of our police division. Just please keep in your thoughts and prayers as he recovers. So I'd appreciate that. But as far as staffing levels, we're able to continue to keep the services that our citizens expect from us with our staffing levels being up. We have not had any issues of maintaining those current service levels. I want to speak to, and it's a good segue from what Shannon was talking about in the Engaged Neighborhood Plan, but just again, our staff stepping up to the challenges that they're faced with in the environment that we're faced with because of COVID-19, and we continue to do exceptional work for our community. The Engaged Neighborhood Plan is one example of that. I commend Shannon and her team for what they've done with the Engaged Neighborhood Plan, but as Shannon mentioned, it goes well beyond even just the Community Development Department that have put a lot of time and effort to see fruit develop from the successes of that individual plan there. And there's examples of that I could name throughout the organization of our continued efforts and our continued work that we're doing for our community. We've faced a challenging last 4 or 5 days with several incidents, starting last week with some horrific and tragic car accidents that occurred in our community, followed by a fire that claimed the life of 1 individual, to a shooting that occurred just yesterday morning that claimed the life of another individual in our community. And our thoughts and prayers are with their loved ones for losing a big part of their family, a big part of their life. And so we understand the pain, the hurt that they're going through right now, but we're also dealing with the same internally with our staff. And again, our police division, our fire division, our dispatch unit have done a phenomenal job dealing with tragedy in our community and being there for those that need us at a moment's notice. And so we're continuing to provide those levels of service. And I'm just so proud to be part of this organization because our members are just they do phenomenal work for our community and on behalf of our citizens. As far as the Kroger project's concerned, the commissioners are aware that we held 7 public engagement sessions at the end of July with developer Larry Dillon, who we have an LOI with. We continue to work with Larry now on the development of that DSA, or the Development Services Agreement. We met with him and his team earlier this week to talk about, actually at the end of last week, to talk about those next steps. Each of the 7 groups have formed a leadership team through 1 to 2 different representatives from each of the groups that were met with. So we're excited to kickstart those leadership meetings with Larry. He's hopeful to have information to us by the end of this month. So here just in about a week or so, we should see the next phase of Larry's development of his business plan and moving towards that DSA. But again, working with the community, working with that leadership group to come up with the best solution for that property and the surrounding area. Mark?
Yes, thank you, Brian. I don't want to sound too much like a broken record, but our cash balances are holding steady. This morning I looked at them and they were at $13.6 million of unencumbered cash in the general fund and about $73 million in total. We haven't had an update to our income tax over what I gave you 2 weeks ago, where we were down 4%. And we continue to control our spending and personnel costs at this point. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Again, the longer this pandemic drags on, the more I'm concerned about overall revenues for the organization. But at the moment, we're doing fine.
Well, I would like to thank all the staff who kept city services going, virtually at full tilt, and for everyone working together to make sure that we have the financial wherewithal to keep those services flowing throughout the duration of the pandemic and on into the future. I'm just delighted with what we're doing and our ability to continue, even under very difficult circumstances, to move forward and to do so together. So thank you, everyone. It is much appreciated.
I wanted to agree with what was just said. So far, so good in terms of the efforts of the city staff to continue to serve the community. And thank you for that, and best wishes for the future. Let's hope we are able to continue this.
So on that note, Brian, you had mentioned an appreciation for the city bus staff. Is that still on?
Yes, we are working towards that. I'll actually ask Logan, she can provide additional details.
Hi there. So yes, we have scheduled the SCAT appreciation driver day for September 16th. This will be sometime between 10:30 and 11:30 p.m. that I would ask any commissioners that are available to meet at 100 West Jefferson Street. This will be a time for us to socially distantly thank our drivers. We'll be providing them with boxed lunches for the day, and really just a day to celebrate them for all the hard work that they've done during the pandemic. So like I said, be on the lookout for an email with some additional details there. But if you'd want to mark your calendars, it's going to be on September 16th.
Well, thank you.
And I believe she probably meant 10:30 to 11:30 a.m., not p.m.
Did I say p.m.?
Yes.
Yep, we're going to do a.m.
Oh.
Thank you. Thanks, Logan.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Mayor Copeland, I have one citizen comment.
Okay.
I received an email from Deborah Caraway of 2972 Alameda Drive in Springfield. She asked, when is the traffic light going to be replaced at North Limestone and Harding Road?
Great question.
Yes, so Chris Moore, do you want to provide us with the information that you've learned today?
Yeah, sure would. So as you may or may not know, on March 29th, during a heavy wind event, that traffic signal blew over and actually fell onto the sidewalk. So at that time, we started working to order new poles for that intersection. And obviously that was a very critical time during the lockdown period. Ordering the pole was difficult. We did get the order placed. And under normal conditions, poles take about 6 months. So if we would have, we'll say we got it ordered early April, it would have arrived sometime in October. We received an update on August 17th that our pole is scheduled to go to the powder coaters in mid-November, and we should receive it around the first of the year. Our plan is to have all of the other necessary materials available to install the poles and the associated equipment as soon as they arrive around the first of the year.
Just dude, because that letter just prompted my mind, the speed on Limestone is out of control. And I just want to bring that up. I think I brought that up to the chief in the past, but it's not just the super bikes that are zooming up and down well over 70 miles an hour. It's the traffic and the cars and just there's, I know, I don't know if it's staffing or what, but it is out of control. There is lots of high speed up and down Limestone. Just want to bring that to your attention, Lee. And if there's anything we can do to have some sort of presence on Limestone. And that light doesn't help. I know we can't do anything about it, but that light, you know, there is no stop there. So it gets faster, but it's all the way down Limestone, north and south.
Commissioner Rue, I have the same problem on Center Street. I have complaints over in different areas of that same thing, speed.
Yeah.
I agree on both counts. I travel on both of them, and it's very true that the speed seems to have sped up significantly, not just on North Lime, but also on South Lime.
Yeah, the whole, all of Limestone, all of Limestone, yeah.
Commissioners, thank you. Yeah, and as we've discussed in the past, you know, we're aware of it as well. One thing I will say is that Safe Streets Task Force has spun up and they've been out this month. And part of what we've been doing is having them work on traffic enforcement. I can tell you that just talking to a couple of the officers that had come in off of about 7 hours of work, they had written over 12 citations. You know, part of our plan, and always has been, as we get our numbers up, is trying to kind of beef up the traffic unit to try to get more enforcement out there. But I'm aware of your concerns, or my concerns too, and Safe Streets will be working that as much as we can as far as enforcement. You know, I would like to think that we'd all be courteous to each other out there, but we know that can be an issue. And Thursday was a real bad night for crashes, and without, you know, any of the weather factors that we usually see that are involved in that. And what was kind of interesting as well, I don't want to say interesting for something like that, but that was going on all over the Miami Valley. As I talked to other colleagues, I don't know what that was about Thursday, but it definitely brings, you know, that example, you know, right into our living rooms about some of the issues out there. So we'll continue to address it and work on it. And I would just ask citizens in general just to, you know, obey the laws and be courteous and careful of each other. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lee. I just want you to know I was not being critical of your policing, but I know it's a huge problem, and I've just wanted to bring that up in the meeting, and the letter prompted my memory to say something. But thanks for your comments, Lee.
No, and no offense taken. I mean, that's our job. That's our job one, and we don't always get it 100% right. But I want you to know, and the citizens to know, that we are working on it. And we're trying to make adjustments in that area.
Good.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Estro.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrad,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Everyone have a good afternoon.
Bye, guys.